Historians call the Bataan Death March the worst military atrocity ever suffered by American soldiers in the history of the United States. Ken Porwoll survived this torturous march and 3.5 years as a Japanese prisoner of war. This is his story.
I would like to start out with the day of surrender. That was a rather startling experience as the Japanese soldiers moved into our area, and it didn't take them long, within an hour they were in there, that one of their soldiers marching had a flushed face and he looked like he had fever. And before he got through our area, he fell to the ground. The officer leading this group of men came back and beat him with his sword until he got up and joined the rest of them. This signaled us that our life was not going to be too easy from now on. And it wasn't. The first act was to line us up along a road, and all of the Japanese soldiers that were present there at the time had the right to come and take whatever personal belongings that we had, such as a watch or rings or wallets or whatever might be in the wallet. And they did this quite freely. And even though some of them had wristwatches from their wrist to their elbow, they were still looking for more. And if you had a ring and they wanted the ring, you best give them the ring, because if you made like you couldn't get it off your finger, they would cut your finger off and take the ring. And if you had a comb or some other piece of personal belonging that had the word Japan on it, you were immediately taken out in the front and you were beat and you were killed on the spot, inasmuch as they felt you had taken this item from a dead Japanese soldier. So there was no mercy shown at all at that point. That was a real startling introduction into what was ahead of us. And I think that same day they grouped us in groups of 100 to 200 men and started our march down the road.
The Death March begins. Over the next 8 days, the soldiers were forced to march 60 miles in scorching heat to the city of San Fernando.
The 60-mile march part was from Marvelis, which is the southern tip of Bataan, to the city of San Fernando, which is about halfway to Camp O'Donnell. And the first half was the walking part, and the torturous part where you were walking in the tropic sun each day and with no water and no food, and with very little rest during the day's march, or as I like to say, a shuffle, because it was more of a shuffle than a walk, a march. That was another kind of a mind game they played with the American soldier, was to attack an American soldier in the walking ranks and scream at him and holler at him and act like he had done something wrong. As they beat on him, then they looked to the ranks of the American soldier and invite them to come out to help their friend. And those that did then were beat along with the original person, and 1 or 2 or 3 or how many went out, they all died. They all died. So that one began to hate the Japanese with a passion, just a real passion. It got to the point of where if you looked at a Japanese with your angry eyes and your angry face, then you were pulled out of line and beaten until you didn't exist anymore. And so you learn not to look at them, and you learn not to go out to help another person. But then you got to the point to where you hated yourself, too, for not doing this, that you were not the macho soldier that you thought you were, and you weren't the big, strong person. And I had to anyway, to keep telling myself, I'm not going out there because I want to live. And if I go out there, I will not live. I will die on the spot. Then I began to think less of myself and become angry and say, well, what kind of person are you? The other thing was that I decided not to watch these atrocities, and so that I wouldn't get so angry. Well, then the Japanese soldiers come with their bayonets and poking at me and saying, tell me that I better watch or they're going to use their bayonets on me. So you were forced to watch. and you were forced to let all of this stuff get into your head and make you angry. And I got to the point to where I needed some relief from this, and I said, God, where are you? What are you going to do about this, God? And of course, there was no answer. And I had to assume that if I was going to live through this, I would have to do it on my own. And I then become like a very lone person. Even though I'm walking with 150 other Americans, I still am alone, and I have no contact with them. I don't want to be a part of their suffering. I don't want to be a part of what is happening to them. I divorce myself from that, and you become just lone, tired, dirty individual, hungry to the point of starvation, and thirsty.